Hey everyone, I hope you are all enjoying Monster Hunter Rise Sunbreak, which is now available on both the Nintendo Switch and on PC. And in this video, I just wanted to quickly go ahead and cover Afflicted monsters, since it's going to be a rather ongoing topic that we are going to be discussing when it comes to the end game experience and how it's going to shape the meta around pretty much just trying to make sure you hunt these monsters in a constant, continual, successful fashion. A few days ago, I put out a video where I basically started to talk about endgame, but at this time, we simply did not have all the details regarding afflicted monsters. Hell, we couldn't even say the word afflicted since the embargo had not lifted, and basically people weren't free to be able to talk about it. In this video, I actually addressed them as CAS monsters, as cursed, afflicted, or sickened monsters, but we're basically talking about afflicted monsters nonetheless. There's quite a lot of details to go over regarding how endgame is really going to be shaped regarding these afflicted hunts, and I basically just wanted to give you guys a little bit of a more detailed version of all the information that we have so far regarding how it is that it's going to shape up, at the very least for day one. We know that once the title updates arrive, this is going to probably change and things are going to begin to shape up a little bit different. But for now, as you're playing the game right now and making your way to these afflicted monsters, this is pretty much all you can expect. So a couple of the things that we can expect is that CAS quests are unlocked after you defeat the final crystal boy. We discussed a little bit about that in the previous video. You can embark upon them in multiplayer experience, and the only solo quests that you're basically going to be doing by yourselves are the follower quests. That would be the ones where you have the characters from either Komura Village or Elgato assisting you in a specific hunt. Now there's 5 different things that make these characters and these monsters essentially extremely dangerous, and I touched upon a few of them before, but now we have a little bit more things to go over and clarify. First and foremost, they can afflict blood blight at any and all times. The weakest version of a CAS monster is almost as tough as the final crystal boss. Think about that. They're just extremely dangerous. They are fast, they are extremely mean, their attacks are extremely powerful, they're sped up in almost all ways. Also, if you don't break their orbs periodically, they basically go nuke. They're gonna explode. We're going to talk about that in this very own segment a little bit further, but this is a key signifier for these specific battles. Also, their damage is buffed and they can basically two-shot you if you're not paying attention. So they're basically endgame plus plus. Now, a couple of other things that I also want to clarify is that there's no Master Rank Village quest at all, only the hub quest, but you can choose to play the entirety of Master Rank online if you so choose to. Just understand that the health pool implications are massive, especially when you get to the CAS monsters. So you can do single player Master Rank by yourself online if you want, if you're like hunting by yourself, but understand that the health pools are just significantly higher than if you choose to do it by yourself offline, and the hub quests are basically the only way for you to be able to see all of the Sunbreak content. CAS monsters are trappable, but they are not capturable. This is a big difference. They're going to be getting out of traps really fast, so you're just gonna have time to maybe drink a potion or two and then just completely get right back into the hunt, because they're just constantly gonna be breaking out. So what that does mean is that traps do work on them during the hunt, but you're not going to be able to end the hunt a little bit faster by trying to trap them, because it's just not going to work. They're just going to instantly break out of it. Something that I know is going to make a lot of people upset and probably disappointed is that CAS monsters do not have unique weapons and or armors. So those of you who are expecting to Capcom perhaps learn from Apex as not having armors or weapons, basically these creatures are no different. They don't have any new armors or weapons. With that said though, we spoke about this before and we suggested, quote unquote, that there are some weapons you can actually use by hunting these monsters. We're going to get to that in just a little bit. So the first CAS quest you're going to see is Luna Garen, but with the understanding that he lacks the proper stats to make him a real CAS encounter. You'll notice that corpses are laying about in pretty much the entire hunt, and the ruined landscape is just right there, as Luna Garen pretty much took care of everything with the flying Giggies. If you don't know what the flying Giggies are, these are the monsters that are flying around Malzeno, and they look like Giggies and they have wings. You can expect there to be a Master Rank level up system just like it was in the past. That's not necessarily going to change, and you can expect Pirate Magnum Malo to be unlockable somewhere around Master Rank level 100. Post that, you are going to start to see basically the CAS monsters. The CAS monsters are also designated to make hunts extremely tough and difficult, basically using endemic life forms, all the tools at your disposal, abusing mechanics like the insect glaive bug glitch, which has been something that I was trying to showcase in my last video rather poorly, might I add. But basically those type of things are going to be the best way for you to be able to guarantee a successful hunt whenever you're dealing with CAS monsters. Now, before I mention that if you don't necessarily take care of them rather quickly, they're going to explode. So now we're going to talk about that a little bit. So first and foremost, these explosions that monsters do are signified by a specific roar. Sparks will fly around and then they basically go haywire and explode. You have about 3 seconds to get away from them, or otherwise you're going to get caught up in the blast. Usually a red sphere will form around the orbs as they fly around outwardly, and then it happens with each one of them subsequently. They're not different from monster to monster, so that same mechanic is going to be applicable every single hunt whenever you're dealing with CAS monsters. In order to avoid this blast from happening, which is worth considering that there's about 6 or 8 of them happening in every single hunt. If you manage to burst it down, you'll basically avoid them from going explosion. In order to avoid that explosion, you need to do a lot of damage to the core of the flying Giggies. I spoke about this before, but the flying Giggies are controlling the CAS monsters lore-wise. So once you stop the flying Giggies from going all day Dara on you, you're gonna be able to see more Giggies appear subsequently. The flying Giggies also appear all over the monster's body, and in certain spots they begin to glow. You basically need to focus on things like the legs, the back, the head, things of that nature, and it's your job to burst them down before they ignite. They'll also begin to blink faster and faster as they're getting ready to detonate. It is important to pick up on that. Once you pop enough of these, you'll knock down the monster, stagger it, and begin to exhaust it. So you do have some time to dwell on it a little bit. You'll also get the benefit that it can't do any blood attacks until it powers up again. At any one time, you can have a flock from about 3 glowing spots ready to burst down at any one moment. If the flying Giggies aren't taken care of, they're basically going to be constantly exploding in a chain format. So if you don't focus on them, you're basically never going to kill that monster. If you do get caught up in the blast and the explosion, you'll of course take massive damage and probably will kill you, but also stun you in the process. In the single player experience, if you're doing these hunts by yourself, you're most likely going to get comboed and just instantly die. So learning how to differentiate from a normal monster's roar to which one is ready to explore as a CAS monster is about to go off is crucial in a specific hunt, and it's something that you're basically going to want to get used to. Staggering them is also available, but don't count on it, because values from like monster's health to stagger to stun to KO to poison and even paralyze are much higher than previous games. You can break their parts of course, and you can inflict much more damage in broken parts that are also ramped up as well. So think of it this way, cutting a tail won't be done for the first 3 minutes of a hunt like you typically do it now. Instead, basically cutting a tail is going to take you probably until the end of the hunt. It's no joke. We can also expect that some of these monsters' attacks are pretty deceitful, like a small attack will take 50% of your health, while others feel almost like they're going to one-shot you if you're not necessarily proper geared. It's also worth noting that the meta regarding these hunts will probably revolve around having to decide if you want to avoid an explosion blast of a certain monster's part that is not high damage value of a body. So you may want to back out altogether, avoid getting caught up in the blast, and wait for the flying Giggies to explode and shout in a specific area that you can actually hit. Think of it like the paws or the tail or the head, which is an easy area that you can access, instead of specific monsters where the back is an area that is kind of tough to get to. For starters, CAS Tobi Kadachi has a ridiculous amount of health, only topped by Arathian. So think of it this way, the final boss is around 70,000 health or so in Master Rank. But these monsters are starting at base 70,000, meaning that they're simply a continuation of the last battle and simply keep getting higher and higher. And let me remind you once again, this is something that I mentioned in my previous video. CAS monsters on day 1 will start at the highest difficulty and Magna Malo, meaning that monsters like Malzeno will not have a CAS equivalent. These will most likely come as post-launch DLC updates, so those quests are going to have even higher thresholds of difficulty and higher damage parameters, higher health pools, whatever. They're just going to be a ridiculous set of pain, essentially, when you're dealing with these monsters. Another example is Blood Orange Bishitan tossing his acorns all over the place, giving you Blood Blight on top of Fire Blight. And his acorns are expected to take about 70% of your health in a wide area radius of an area. So not only are they going to be just bouncing all over the place, but they are going to be extremely dangerous. So this is what I talked about before. Monsters that you didn't necessarily consider to be tough are now going to be extremely tough because of just the level of damage parameters that they have been boosted with. We are looking at super apexes here. Pretty much that's the way that I'm going to present it going forward. Basically, you're gonna need about 10 ranks to max out your weapon, but do keep in mind that the appearance or basically anything else is not gonna change. Only the stats are gonna go up. So you can power up one of your weapons up to a 10th rank level. You can also expect new weapons, kind of like old-timey, legendary, perhaps even ancient machine-looking weapons that have different stats and stuff from these specific CAS materials drop. But again, that's a very unspecific line of weapons. You're also going to need CAS monster materials to upgrade each one of the weapons, and you're going to get about 1 or 2 materials per hunt. You're not going to need to hunt a specific CAS monster. You can hunt monsters that are similar to that one. So basically think of it this way, like if you need a dragon skull, that CAS material, whatever monster is a dragon, they have a chance to drop that dragon skull CAS material, and that way you can be able to power up your weapons. But even the easiest hunts, like a Great Isuchi, is going to be really tough. So it's not like you're going to be able to just kind of like waltz your way into just farming CAS monsters in the most fastest way possible, 3-minute hunts. No, these dudes are going to take, 10 to 15 minutes for you to be able to take them down. And essentially you're going to be doing end game damage already. So it's going to be one of those times where you're constantly just trying to farm the most optimal monster for whatever part it is that you need to power up your specific weapon and try to do a little bit more extra damage as you're ready to farm the next CAS monster. But that's about all the information that I wanted to cover today. If you're brand new to my channel, be sure to leave a like and subscribe, hit the bell to receive notifications when the videos go up, and as always, thank you so much for watching. See ya!